And we're back. Welcome to Surviving and Thriving, the Breaking Badass podcast. I am your host, Bridget, and joining me is Jen. Welcome back, Jen. It's so good to have you again.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. So, I am really excited about today's episode. I know that you and I were talking, and we were chatting a lot about what it was like when we were growing up. And I think that you and I have a lot of similarities from our childhood. But the main thing that I wanted to start out with in today's episode was I have a question for you, Jen.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
I don't know. Out.
This question's going to lead us down a pathway, okay? And I think it's going to be relatable to a lot of our listeners, right? When you were a child, do you know or how do you know that your parents loved you?
Whoa. I was not ready.
This is when you do it unscripted. I want that reaction.
I mean, that's a loaded question, I think, because my parents were divorced and I had very different relationships with both of them. My dad unfortunately played favorites. Fortunately, I was the favorite, so that's how I knew from him that he loved me. He was a gift giver. Gift giving was one of his love languages, and I got spoiled by him. My mom, as a child, I don't even know if I really felt like I was that loved by her, if I'm going to be totally honest. Like, I felt like I think logically in my head, I was like, oh yeah, mom loves me because she, sends care packages to camp, or because she puts me in piano lessons, or she does mom things. Right. But like as a child on an emotional level, I don't know if I ever had that feeling of really being understood and feeling like genuinely loved. Actually, I know that I didn't feel genuinely loved and cared for by my mom. She made a point of always kind of coming down on me when I would come back from my dad's because of the fact that he spoiled me. And she would say, like, I have to knock your head back down to earth. So it was like, my dad would like shower me with love, and I only got to see him 1 weekend a month. And then I would come home and it was basically like my mom was sending me the message, like, you don't deserve that to be loved like that. And so I think like in my head, I was like, yeah, my mom loves me because she's my mom. Emotionally speaking, I don't think I was aware of it then, but looking back on it now, as a child, I don't know if I ever really felt that love from her.
Wow, yeah. That's very deep. I'm so sorry.
I mean, thank you. But I mean, I feel like that's something that a lot of us who end up living through narcissistic abuse, once we start diving down the rabbit hole of healing and understanding what these manipulative behaviors are, what these toxic behaviors are, I think it's very common for a lot of us to learn that we've been raised in this kind of family, and it's essentially what has primed us to be the perfect target for narcissists because they are our comfort zone. I don't know. Yeah, this is something that, I'm curious to hear your input on this too, because so let me ask you the same question. How did you know that your parents loved you? Or did you they loved you?
Well, listeners that are coming back from season 1 would know that, and it's like thunderstorming suddenly over here. Boom. Like a big boom. It's kind of like, ooh, okay. That's theatrics. My dad raised me and my brothers, and I saw my mom twice a year after he moved us across the country. I've thought about this question quite profoundly, and I've journaled about it a bit because I knew I was going to be asking you this question. And I've come up with the same answer in regards to my father. I think my dad loved me. My dad provided a house for us to live in, with food. My dad helped me occasionally with homework when I asked, but was a man of short patience, it seemed, because I didn't immediately have the answers. I felt he would love me more when I had straight A's. I was the smart one in comparison to my brothers when we were in grade school. My brothers were the athletes. And so I don't know if I felt like what it is to be loved by a man, like the first man in your life, your father. My dad, I think, boasted about me a lot. And when I became bilingual in Spanish, would tell people, my daughter is bilingual in Spanish, and would like have me speak Spanish like a monkey, like a puppet, like Bridget on command to do this. So that's what I feel about my dad. Now, my mom, quite the contrary. My mom would send things to us. I was not allowed to see her very often. She would call, probably in compliance with the custody order. I don't know. I still have not been able to get my hands on it. I don't know a lot of truths from my childhood.
Yeah.
But I know that when I was sick and I was with her, I was hurting and I was with her. She would hold my hand and I would hold hers, and she would let me rub over the veins of her hand. Yeah.
Just being there.
She was there. She was there. She would let me hang up things in her apartment when she moved from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, and all of us helped her move. And she went to the pool with my brothers, and I wanted to surprise her. And she's like, "This looks great. You did such a great job." And the pictures are probably crooked, right? I was like 10. But yeah, she showed up for me.
Yeah.
And in all the ways that she was able to, knowing that we were apart. And I think now I recognize those things as a 39-year-old because I didn't see them then.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something earlier that kind of struck me when you said that you were the smart one. Felt like you could only be loved if you were getting straight A's, right? Well, in my mom's eyes, I was the creative one. I was the artistic one. And it's interesting how they create these roles for us. And we really only feel that love if we are fitting into that character that they expect us to play. And so it's almost like, I know that one thing I've struggled with a lot is like really not knowing who I was, even before I met my ex who like ran me into the ground. Like looking back, I don't know if I ever truly, genuinely had my own authentic personality because I was always trying to live up to the expectations of these people who wanted me to be a certain way. And it was the only way for me to keep the peace or feel loved was to be that person. But that's myself.
Yeah. I feel that like deep in my bones that I constantly had to like perform for
Defense mode.
right, like my family. And the one person that caught on to it, I graduated from Jordan High School in Durham. I went to school with the Duffer Brothers, the creator of Stranger Things.
No, what?
Yeah, I graduated with them in my class. They were friends of mine. Yeah. Yes. I kissed one of them in high school. Like it was a very quick thing. I did. But really cool guys, really great, really polite, really kind, really amazing people. But I was a theater kid, and my theater teacher, her name is Hope Hines. Great. I know that she's doing very well in her life. But she said to me in high school, "Stop trying to live your life in a way that pleases others."
Mm.
And it was when I was performing, right? I was in an improv troupe through her, and I felt that when I did theater, for me, it was a way of escaping my life, escaping my childhood, my home life, which was with my dad and my stepmother. And like you could stand on stage and have these lights on you. And it wasn't because I wanted the attention. I didn't want that. I wanted to pretend that I could be somebody else just for a while. And dissociate, right? Escape my own reality. But yeah, it was my theater teacher that told me that I was like a people pleaser before I even knew what a people pleaser was.
Right? Impact on you then, or is it now that you're looking back and saying, "Oh, I see what she was doing there now."
Yeah, now I get it. Now I get it. Uh, and I didn't see it at the time, but now, again, now I really fully understand that I was living my life in a way that I was performing for others, worried about what they would think of me, if they would like me, if I would fit in, if I'd be accepted.
Yeah.
Feeling rejected over and over again by your family is terrible. You're filled with shame.
Oh,
They fill you with guilt, right? Right? It's like going home knowing that you have a bad grade on your progress report. Fuck, you've got to get that grade up before the report card comes, because if not, it ain't gonna be good.
we don't want to know what happened then.
Right, right. And so it's like those same feelings. So I lived that way most of my adolescence, feeling that I needed to be accepted and liked by others. And so I would play a part.
Yeah. Yes, I feel like you're narrating my child.
Funny how similar we are.
I know, right? And I think it's honestly like the more I speak with survivors of narc abuse, the more I'm seeing these patterns and these similarities, not only in the narcissist in terms of like they are all cut from the same cloth and it's like textbook behavior. It's wild how much they parallel each other. But a lot of the survivors also have all of these similarities as well. And like, you know, not remembering your childhood or, having the performance mode issues or imposter syndrome or people pleasing or feeling like you always have to be contributing and giving back to be appreciated or valued. And like you always have to be bringing something to the table to have any value.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm learning now as I navigate a potentially healthy relationship. Just you is great.
Yeah.
You don't have to always be putting something out there, like, and I think that's conditioned into us at a very young age. And that's why we do become prime targets, is because we are constantly wanting to please and we can never please the narcissist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that right there, like the imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many of our clients, even like the people that we've spoken to,
Mm.
the feelings of, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel like I can do this. I don't think I can do this alone. A lot of that comes from long-term conditioning and being gaslit and being abused, obviously. But I do feel like there is a foundation that has been laid prior to being in that unhealthy, toxic, abusive relationship, right? And it started when you were small.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, I know that you've been asked, I've been asked, we've talked about it. People have asked us, how did you get to be where you are right now? It's recognizing the shit that we went through as little girls, figuring that out and being like, oh, well, wait, let me do some work on me here. Cause I
Yeah.
can't just always point my finger at my narcissistic ex. My ex was an abuser, cause there's 4 other fingers pointing back at me.
You have to look at the common denominator there. And sometimes the common denominator is yourself. And it's not your fault. You've been raised in a narcissistic home. So obviously, if you've been raised by a narcissistic person, you're going to have some of those qualities because it's what you've known. But it's like also there's something inside of you that doesn't feel quite right because you know that that's not right. You know that that's not good behavior. So it's like when you can finally develop that self-awareness and like break down your own toxic behaviors and really start to develop yourself and grow yourself into a person that you are proud of becoming,
Sure.
it starts to snowball. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it also in terms of like, yes, you have to develop that self-awareness and understand what you've lived through and what is happening to you and who these people are. But you also have to get to the point where you're like, enough, I'm done. I'm no longer accepting this in my life anymore, because it's not just about recognizing it. You can recognize it all you want, but if you're still allowing that behavior to control your life, then you're not really making a lot of progress there, you know? So the first, self-awareness, the next step is personal growth and evolution. And then the step after that, maybe at the same time, probably at the same time, to
Yes.
just like in the butt, you know, and it's painful and hard and it's scary. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
A way to get to where you want to be.
It's not easy work. And I think that's why so few people start to do it, because we have been taught from a very young age that family is everything. What happens in this house stays in this house. We don't talk about things outside of this family, right? The blind loyalty, exactly. And I think you and I have been the scapegoated child, right? And so we've always been seen as like the danger, because they knew that we were going to eventually out them. And with that, I think there comes this certain recognition in us of like, we have this power over them because we can change the outcome of our story, right? We can change the next generation of our family for the better. And it is painful, but I've mourned the loss of, because I've cut off my whole family, but I've mourned the loss of a family that I grew up having, but I've come to learn that in actuality, the family that I thought I had never really existed, right? It was this idea of the family that I thought I had, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a happy family. My family's great. I've got these brothers, my dad, and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't that way.
Right.
Right. And I think that's hard. And I'm not saying that everybody should, cut off family members or something like that, but definitely set firm boundaries. And it is challenging. I think there's lots of my childhood that I still don't remember. Lots of parts of my childhood I don't recall. Do you remember your childhood? Are there like things that you can actually remember, or is it kind of foggy to you?
Very foggy. Very, very few memories. I will say that after how many years? 6 years of trauma therapy modalities, and I am starting to have more memories come to the surface, which has been interesting. But no, I don't have a ton of memories from my childhood. And I think it's because I was a very anxious child. Looking back, I think I was very much living with complex trauma without understanding it or realizing I was in survival mode for so long. When you're in survival mode, your hippocampus goes offline, so you're not making memories. So it's very common for kids of narcissistic abuse to not have a lot of memories of their childhood. It's a survival mechanism, and it's something your brain does to protect you. Yeah, and I think that as an adult, because I've really, you and I have talked about it, and I'm dealing with something right now in my family where I had set boundaries with them, and then I loosened them up a little bit with that hope, with that as anything. Yeah, and it bites me in the ass so hard, so hard. And I think what I'm working on realizing now is that even though they're still alive, mourning the loss of my family now is less painful than having them in my life. So it's painful regardless. Sadly, that's the path that we are on. Those are the cards we've been dealt. But we have to choose the lesser of two evils, and we also have to prioritize ourselves. And that's tough when you've been raised in a family that makes you feel like you should prioritize them over yourself.
Yeah.
It can feel really, really hard and really, really scary and really, really selfish. And I deal with a lot of guilt, but then I also have to reach out to you and have you tell me you deserve to be happy. You deserve to, like, it's important to have people like you in my life who can like check me back in and bring me back down to reality. And remind me, no, that's actually just your conditioning. That's a trauma response, and that is not actually the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I can be that person for you.
Thank you
Because
for being that.
we all need a person like that, right? We all
Yeah.
need a person. I'm glad you can be that for me, and you are that for me. Or I'm glad I can be that for you, and you for me. Right, exactly. I'm glad we can be that for each other. Huh?
Do you have memories from childhood?
Do I have memories from childhood? Oh, not a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Not a lot of good ones. I don't have a lot of memories from my childhood. Memories that have come up have been ones that I've reprocessed through EMDR therapy. And it's funny because one of the first things that you learn in EMDR is you're supposed to pull like a happy memory, a good place that you can take your mind to when you don't feel safe. And I didn't have a place. So I had to create a place. And I don't know if I've told you this when we've hung out, but the place that I've created, it's called the Sunshine Fields. And it's like this valley, a beautiful valley between these mountains. I'm from Denver, and it's got yellow is my favorite color. It's got yellow flowers. Really? Yes.
Such a happy color.
It is a happy color.
Sunshine field. It sounds beautiful.
It is. And it's got just like the perfect temperature and a lovely breeze that comes through it. And I've got a picnic blanket and I've got a picnic basket. I've always this is the one thing that I want. Like my kids are asking me for a Christmas list. It's going to be, I want a picnic basket, like an old school woven picnic basket. Like that's what I want. But it's just like the perfect temperature. It's beautiful and it's peace. And in the Sunshine Field is only me and my mom ended up joining me in the Sunshine Field in this place in my mind. And when I have a panic attack, an anxiety attack, because I have complex trauma, I put myself there. And it used to take me a long time to do. But now I'm able to recreate that place very quickly. I can close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and I can ground myself and center myself within probably a minute, just by putting myself in that place. So it's like very meditative for me. When I meditate initially, I put myself there. It's just like my brain has been reprogrammed. So that's something that I've learned to do through EMDR. But to get back to the question, I don't have, any good memories. And I don't even have a lot of good memories of like toys that I like. I had a really, really rough childhood. I wasn't able to play really a lot with toys. When I was with my dad or my stepmother, I was given like a long list of chores. And so I would make up games when I would play my chores. And I would fantasize about a life that I didn't have. I would dissociate. I would constantly work. I was literally a slave from the time that I got home from school until it was dinner time. That's when my chores would be done. And on the weekends, I would do the same. I wasn't the little kid that was out playing all the time with friends. I had a very small time frame that I would be allowed to play. And so, like, for me to say I had this one favorite toy, I played with Barbies, but like a specific doll or a specific thing, not really. I don't remember that. I don't know. I remember saying this one thing over and over again when I was a little girl of, you are making me out to be the bad guy to my stepmom. And it was constant. I didn't get to play a lot as a kid. Oh, yeah. So I told my stepmom, right? Because she was the one that, she would hit me a lot. She would spank me a lot. And then my dad would spank me again when he got home. And I told her, I said, I feel like you're making me out to be the bad guy all the time. And I was like really small. And because I said that to her and I was standing up for myself, she got so pissed. She got so pissed. And I would be punished. So I was immediately identified as the scapegoat and all of these things from such a young age. I recognized that I had to be on her good side all of the time in order to stay out of trouble. You know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
right? Like, you live in a narcissistic family, you have to go around like on tiptoes. You have to have all of your shit done. You have to be perfect, like always on time. Nothing is fucked up ever. And so that's how I lived. And I don't know if it was revenge or what it was, but I was 16 and I told my stepsister at the time, and I was just having a conversation with her because I really genuinely loved her and I had a great relationship with her, I thought. And I looked at her as a sister and a friend. And I said, I find it interesting that, my dad met your mom because he was cheating on my mom with your mom. Don't you think that it would be probable that your mom might get cheated on by my dad? Like, if my dad met your mom because she was the mistress, then it's likely that, my dad will cheat again.
Yeah,
Okay.
logical.
Right. So this started like this whole little adventure of my stepmother's. I only saw the ugly parts, okay? But I think she caught my dad cheating. I don't know what happened, but my dad was like forced out of the house. She put a dead puppy in a shoebox and put it on the kitchen table or the kitchen counter. I think it was the kitchen counter. Like it.
Is that?
So my stepbrother had had a dog that had puppies, and one of them was like the run of the litter and passed away, I think, is what happened. And she put it on, she put it in a shoebox, labeled the shoebox, Randy was my dad's name, and put it on the counter for my dad to open. And he was still living at the house at the time. I had run away. I ran away from home because this bitch was like going, like, like it was bad. She was like threatening to take my door off the hinges. Like I could only listen to Christian music. Like I was Satan to her. Oh yeah.
One of those Christians.
Oh, she was one of those Christians. Okay.
Those little blonde.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could only listen to Christian music, but yet she was my dad's mistress.
Totally different.
I see how this is going into the next episode really quickly.
Good segue.
Right. It's gonna be a good segue for episode number 3. But it was so fun to me. And so she put this and she wrote my dad's name on the shoebox, and inside was a dead dog, a dead puppy. And it was like, is this like an episode from is this something like The Godfather? Like a scene from The Godfather?
Or from The Simpsons.
I don't know. I've never watched The Godfather, but I remember my dad telling me about it. And it was so bizarre.
Yeah.
She also wrote, because I had run away from home and I didn't know these things until my dad had showed, because he had to show his attorney. She had written on like my mirror in my bedroom in an expo marker. She'd moved her granddaughter into my bedroom, and I had still left some things there. Bridget, if you touch anything, I will kill you. Like if I had come back at any time to get my stuff, she would kill me. Yeah.
Wow.
Like she went mental. Like she lost it.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. All because I told my stepsister what I told her.
Because you hate her.
I exposed my dad.
But interesting that she's the one who took revenge and got backlash instead of him.
Yeah, and he played victim the whole time.
Oh, isn't it?
Of course. Like, just like he did when he cheated on my mom and he was the victim and then, took the kids away from my mom. And what a narcissist.
I remember when I first caught my ex cheating the first time. A pretty good time. I was the one who got in trouble for violating his privacy. Yeah.
How dare you, Jen? How dare you?
The audacity, I know. Like, watch out for me.
Like, never touch my phone. Why would you touch that? Why would you look at this? Why would you go snooping around my stuff?
I mean, maybe it's because of the way you're behaving and treating me and accusing me of cheating on you. I don't know.
I know. Like, the accusations of cheating is typically projection, my friend. Projection. I can't. I will never.
The reality. It's just we need to validate our own suspicions. You know,
Mhm, mhm. 1000%.
and it was
1000%.
on his phone. Like there were other ways that I found out on me, and of course I kept going to him.
Because that trauma bond is was addicting, man. That toxic love.
It's brutal. That cognitive dissonance too. I swear. There were moments that I could not remember the abuse. Like legitimately could not remember the, and all I could do was praise him.
Right.
It was such a mind fuck.
Because the sex is really good. And because he tells you, no, it wasn't. At the time, we think it's really good. And we're like, oh my God, these men are so hot. But then it's like, you look back and you're like, was I thinking?
Right? And then you experience like a real man on the other side. And you're like, oh my God, I was sick. Like to actually think that was, oh, yeah.
I will say, I've had much better. Maybe as part of their stalking, they're listening. I'm sorry. I shouldn't, but I did.
Yeah, look, like they gaslight us to believe that they're the best we're ever gonna have, and then you experience something different. You're like, wait a second, this was subpar.
It was mediocre. It was mediocre.
It was just really disappointing.
Like, wait, it gets better? Like, there's real men out here? Oh, wow, they actually know how to meet my needs in more ways than one? Mind-blowing.
It's shocking. I know, it's shocking, right?
Right.
What? We'll save that for another episode, too.
We're going to have to, because, like, I don't know where we went off. It's too much fun.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Funny.
man. Yeah,
Wow.
no, they really fuck with your brain. They really fuck with your brain and the cognitive dissonance. It's like you're told that these things actually didn't happen. And so you think that it's like, okay, well, especially in your childhood, you're like, well, I guess my childhood wasn't that bad, like this is normal. Everybody goes through this shit. And
Yeah.
so we then stay like the narcissistic families as we grow up. We go into these narcissistic relationships. It's normal. Everybody goes through this. I go through this,
Yeah.
This was my childhood.
I heard a quote, and I think it's been going viral, so you may have heard it too, but, and I'm going to butcher it because I suck at regurgitating these things, but essentially along the lines of like, everybody, something along the lines of like, people who have experienced childhood trauma have been forced into situations where they are trying to make difficult people love them, or something along those lines. Like, it's something about how we all have been conditioned to make difficult people love us or want or like us even,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so deeply for me, not necessarily even because of my mom, but because of my older sister. She was the most narcissistic person. Maybe not the most, she and my mom, but my sister was just like blatantly high conflict, emotionally, verbally abusive to me. And what's interesting is looking back, what I've realized is instead of my mom having my back, instead of my mom sticking up for me, instead of my mom stopping her from abusing me. I mean, there was a time she came after me with a kitchen knife, a butcher knife. Yeah, and she had loved it. She would get this crazy, I will never forget, she would like get this crazy look on her face where she would just stare straight ahead and her eyes wouldn't blink, and she would get this like smirk on her face. And she came after me really slowly with this butcher knife to the point where I ran up to my room, locked the door, and ran out on the roof and waited until my mom got home, as if my mom was going to talk about it. But my mom's favorite thing to tell me was that I was too sensitive and I needed to learn to ignore it. Learn to ignore the abuse, Jen. You're too sensitive. Is it any wonder I ended up in a narcissistically abusive relationship with somebody who's basically a sociopath?
No.
Years, continually going back, trying to make this incredibly difficult person like me. love me, want me. But I was the one that was too sensitive, and I wasn't good enough at just ignoring it.
Not a surprise.
You know what?
I was the drama queen. I was just a crybaby and a drama queen.
Gaslighting is horrendous, and that is probably one of the hardest things to break. Like, they've planted those seeds in our mind that have grown into weeds, and we didn't plant them there in the first place. So it's up to us to do the weeding. And it's really difficult because they are rooted deep in.
Yeah.
It's not possible, but it's not easy.
Right. And trying to be more like a mindful, conscientious parent at the same time as healing.
You never had that example.
No.
Pulling it out of
How do I do this? Am I doing this right?
Right. Well, I think of like, what was it? Full House. Like, that is where I learned about family dynamics and how it should be, or like what I wanted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I never had that example set for me in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, as a mother now, it's difficult, like trying to break those patterns when you don't have anything to pull from.
I know exactly what you mean. Funny how we mentioned like these little sitcoms, right?
Family Matters, Full House,
Family Matters, Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Oh my
God. I love me some Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. Yes. Oh my God.
Buzz. He's Buzz from Toy Story.
Is he really?
He's the voice of Buzz. To infinity and beyond. I will not do the voice. I cannot do the voice, but I know his words.
TV show.
Yeah, I love those shows. I used to watch them all the time.
Nick at Night.
Nick at Night. Yes.
That was in Good. Pretends like you weren't in the family that you were actually in.
Yeah. That's exactly what you could do. And that everything was going to be okay one day.
Okay.
Now things are okay, right?
But the family, and it's not ever probably going to be okay with the family.
No.
But we
But
get families.
I was just going to say that we've created the family that makes it all okay.
And honestly, my holidays are better now. Mine too. I'm holidays now. There's no family drama.
No, I don't do any of that.
Want to be with.
I don't feel anxious. I don't feel like I have to be somebody else to make everybody else comfortable. I can just be at peace, and it's great. It's great. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Well, I think we have talked quite a lot about our childhoods and kind of the common denominator that got us into abusive relationships in the first place. So we're going to keep the season in different ways. Thank you for sharing part of your childhood with me today, Jen. I really enjoyed hearing all that you had to say. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I feel like I learned even more about it.
You know, I think we're both just great books to read, and I'm excited to hear more and more, and for everyone else to learn more about us, and through us to learn something about themselves. And hopefully that will put them on a path to healing and to growth. And that's the mission here.
That's all we could wish for.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen. And I look forward to having you and everyone else back with us for our next episode. So, signing off for now, sending love to everyone, and we will see you back keeping an amazing badass. We'll see you soon.